What's up, you all? Today we're doing the best quest games. Now, this is not a best free quest games video. I have that video. I will link it in the description below, but you can go ahead and check that out. It's the best free games literally right now. If you're new to VR, if you just jumped into a quest and you're like, I don't have all this stuff for a PC and everything, well, these are games that are still pretty much solid with graphics and performance and just overall give you the generalization of how a virtual reality aspect works, whether it's the movement, gameplay, and the settings, just everything, the interactions. So these games right here, let's go ahead and jump into this list. Again, if you want a free list, I will leave it in the description below, and it's also just our previous video, so you can check that out. Feel free to subscribe though, it does help the channel as we're trying to grow this, and it definitely helps the algorithm. So let's jump into it. All right, first one, you could it's gonna be a slash, like a 1A 1B. So what I want to talk about is Blade and Sorcery. So Blade and Sorcery is a great game for just overall physics, freedom, therapeutic aspects of a sandbox. You're deemed this as a sandbox, which also goes into Bone Lab. So for this choice, you can choose either Blade and Sorcery or Bone Lab. They're pretty much ranked the same. I'd put Blade and Sorcery over it just because Blade and Sorcery really involves that full-on it's great. They have mods. If you're a quest player and you don't have a PC, it's always great to just have mods in a game without having to do all this extracurricular work. Blade and Sorcery Nomad has done that in recent times. Now, when it first launched, it definitely didn't have this, but it is a fun time. It is a great time. Bone Lab also is the same thing, just a little bit more modern. Think of Blade and Sorcery like more like ancient type situation, and then think of Bone Lab more of a modern version of it. Physics, sandbox, you can launch people, do all this crazy stuff, insane customizations and mods. Bone Lab is just like the little baby cousin of Boneworks. It's just a actual Quest 2 version, which still looks very much the same like Boneworks. So don't let anybody trick you into saying that it doesn't look like it. For a Quest port or a Quest actual transfer or a Quest type of situation, Blade and Sorcery also has their own PC version, but both of these, Nomad and Bone Lab, you can choose either or what you want on the list, but they're both the same game in practicality and teach you about sandbox, so you can later relate yourself to like games like Battle Talent and everything. So this is an overall genre that stays the same, that is great, and it's always the best to have in your library. Blade and Sorcery and Bone Lab. Next, we're going to talk about more of the immersion part, like going far more immersive when you're thinking about VR. Two games that really come to my mind, of course, is I'm a little bit older, I like to play these types of games. It's the zombie game. So you're either looking at Resident Evil 4 or Walking Dead. I put these on the same platform. It's why I'm giving y'all multiple choices if you're buying games. Resident Evil 4 and Walking Dead are fully immersive, tons of zombies, and it's all in your face. Now, the Resident Evil 4, if you already know the game, it's not quite as shocking when it's immersed because you already kind of know the story. You know, like me, I already had played this game a long time ago. I'm old school, so I played this way back on GameCube. But Walking Dead was such a shocker to me, so I was like, whoa, everything was all in my face. And Walking Dead has two parts already, the Retribution and the Saints and Sinners, so make your choice on any of that. Get yourself one of these slower, impactful, tactical zombie games versus like a faster zombie game like After the Fall, just because you get more immersed. A little bit more tactical provides that extra immersion for virtual reality. And so you can choose your zombie game of your choice. Usually Resident Evil or Walking Dead are both on the back ends of both people's libraries, so find one. Everything from defending yourself against zombies and survival and story and actual somewhat of replayability at times, and just being able to have an overall experience of what virtual reality is. It is a zombie game. I wouldn't really put these in a full-on horror game, but they have some funny jumps, and it's just great to really get yourself. Anything that has to deal with zombies is always a fun time, just getting yourself into the zombie apocalypse. So Resident Evil 4 or Walking Dead, great stories, so fun. And for Quest, actually showing these graphics, it actually doesn't look too bad for being on the Quest. So yeah, those two. The next game I want to talk about is your rhythm type game. So of course, these are more of like the baby face of what Quest is, or just VR in general. When you look at Quest, the first game you start seeing flying around your face is either Beat Saber or Pistol Whip. So Beat Saber, Pistol Whip are pretty much the essentials of music, getting on in. Pistol Whip is just more of like a handgun version, while Beat Saber is your actual, you feel like a Jedi, right? You got your little lightsabers going on, which is Beat Saber. And so it just depends on what you like. Tons of music, immersion, lots of colors everywhere, so you got to be kind of careful with that if you're like if your eyes are real sensitive to that type of situation. But it's fun, there's a lot of fitness oriented stuff, so you want to low-key have a fitness game too. This actually works with that, and this is all VR in general. like Pistol Whip, Beat Saber, and then there's like also there's a few other like rhythm games that always do it. All the exercise games are basically in relation to these two games right here. So grasping onto one of these games, you already know like almost 50% of what VR is, and just everything. The excitement, it's fun, it's colorful, it makes you feel really cool, especially like the menu of Beat Saber. It makes you feel like you're really like in a zone, in a game, in a different world. And so yeah, it's not, if you're like a hardcore VR user already, you're not gonna like these choices. But if you're new and you want to tap yourself into it, or just something to have in your library whenever you just want to clock out, jam out, have fun. I'm somebody like that. I love to dance and do stuff, so Beat Saber and Pistol Whip are always a fun choice if I want to jam out and play games at the same time. All right, next is gonna be, of course, an FPS situation. So Contractors is my favorite game probably on this whole list, but it's because they have so many mods. They have all types of like Call of Duty stuff. They have like literally Star Wars Battlefront mods. They have Halo mods in here. It packs the most punch for their price, and I think that because it differentiates itself with, of course, it's a FPS multiplayer. They do have a battle royale releasing next year, so Contractors is gonna have a little bit of everything. It is your Call of Duty in Quest, or in VR in general, because there's nothing else close to Call of Duty like that. If you love Call of Duty, you're gonna love Contractors, and if you love like maybe Fortnite a little bit more, then maybe your choice would be Population 1, but that's not a paid one. I shared that on our free version, so check out that free version video for sure. But Contractors is my favorite. There's just so much things you could be doing in there. The customizations, the graphics are great for a Quest. These are Quest standalone games, so this graphics in this game, it looks incredibly fun. Contractors is a game that I always rave about. They're my good friends, and they always, you know, they're great to the community. They listen, they constantly update, and from when it launched to what it looks like now is just a whole nother level, especially for being a Quest standalone. I could only imagine some Quest 3 performance enhancements too. So Contractors is great. They're constantly active, and for them not having a battle royale yet, this is a still solid game, because they're gonna have the battle royale next year. And at that point, they basically are a full launch type game, which we never really get in virtual reality. So Contractors is a huge, somewhat criminally underrated at times, but definitely the best bang for your buck, I would say, in my opinion. And then of course I want to put at the top of the top, which is the most popular game right now. Ghost of Tabor is your most popular, #1 top essential game, just because Ghost of Tabor is just newer and there's not really anything like this. This is the Tarkov of actually Quest or VR in general. This is your PvP, and then your PvE, which you get your type of situations, your actual raids, all that stuff. There's so much to do that keeps you locked in for replayability. Now there's a lot of great ways to really keep it unique versus just doing the all-in missions and trying to just do everything on your own. You can squad up, you can do fun stuff, you can make unique custom lobbies. Whatever you want to do with this game, similar exactly to what Tarkov does. Another thing what Ghost of Tabor does really well, because it is basically the only military looking battle royale. Although it's an extraction, it's still technically somewhat of a battle royale, right? You get armors, you put on your helmet, a lot of things you got to mix in. That's the hardest part, is where it comes into the extraction phase, where you got to do all this in VR. So now you got to be mixing up stuff, you got to make all your items, you got to make sure you're following your missions, lots of stuff to learn. So once you learn everything, it becomes a breeze, but it is a huge grinding learn. But I think that's why people favor it more, because it keeps you invested into the game. Now this, I would still put Contractors over this, because somebody like me who's a little bit older doesn't have that much time every day to be putting into a game. I prefer Contractors due to the battle royale essential, but Ghost of Tabor is the best for everyone right now. It's usually the most relevant content right now, and just what people do with their lobbies and everything. Again, it is the substitute for a battle royale until we actually get a military battle royale. Lots of fun. They are updating everything, and they constantly are great with their community. They repost all the content and everything that's just going down. So Ghost of Tabor does really a great job, and it has solid graphics. What Ghost of Tabor is, in my opinion, how they take care of their like actual lobbies and servers. It reminds me of like Pavlov Shack Beta on steroids, where they take care of everything. It's a paid version, obviously. Pavlov Shack Beta is free. Again, watch my free video. I'll break that down over there too. But it is a Pavlov Shack Beta on steroids. What we used to do on Pavlov Shack Beta with interactions and hanging out and custom lobbies and doing all this fun stuff, Ghost of Tabor has taken to another level for the full virtual reality immersion. So that's definitely a game that you want to look out for. So yeah, those are the best Quest games. Getting into all these games would already get you familiar with like what 90 to 95% of actually virtual reality is. Rhythm games, FPS games, somewhat extraction, and then physics games, sandbox, and then also just your actual story type games. Now there's a lot more games coming around pretty soon, so this is just for now. Recently, I'll always have updates, so make sure you subscribe. I appreciate y'all so much, and leave a comment. And what's your hot take? What game do you like most? And drop it in the list below. Like, what should we take off? What should we put on? I think a lot of people are not gonna agree with the Beat Saber stuff just because it's the baby face. But again, if you're new, this is a game that's a must-have. Because basically every game's like this. All right, I appreciate y'all, man. Peace.